everybody, and welcome back to Fantasy Football. It feels like a long time since I've actually done a proper full episode on this, I guess, because we didn't have anything last week because of the international break, and then before that there was only a few games because of FA Cup and other such situations. So we've got a full Premier League result calendar to go through, full team, and actually ended up doing okay for the week. Ended up with 66 points. There was an average of 48. Highest was 125. Fair play to that person. I made 2 transfers in the team from the previous week, which were David Silva coming in for Zaha, I believe. David Silva got 2 assists, did pretty well, and I brought in Aubameyang for Callum Wilson, I believe, and he did pretty well. So overall, very happy with the results of the week. De Gea, clean sheet. Unfortunately, I was really hoping that the backline would be able to keep clean sheets here, but Man City conceded a goal and Burnley conceded a goal, so we were very, very close to getting an extra for a 12-16 points, which would have been really, really good. A fantastic week. Mane got a goal, nearly got sent off, but there you go. David Silva got 2 assists, Salah got a goal and he was captain, so he's got double points. Firmino didn't do anything really. Barnes got a goal. He's been in really good form recently. If we have a look, he's got 4 goals in 4 games. And Aubameyang got 2 goals, but should have got a hat-trick, but he gave the penalty away to Lacazette, so thanks a lot for that, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, for costing me those points. In terms of the Crystal Palace League, we're 2,476th out of those fans. In England, I'm 177,000. For the week, I was 496 under 500,000, and then overall we're 505,000. So I'm so close to hitting that under 500,000 mark that I wanted. We've got 6 games left, I think, or 6 weeks left worth of games, and it's going to be a tough one, but I would be really, really proud of myself if I did manage to hit that marker in the first, I would say the first season where I've properly actually tried. That would be pretty good for me, I think. Now then, going through the games, we had some really big games this week, mostly focused, I guess, around the bottom of the table, but also some around the Champions League places. First up, the Saturday lunchtime game was Crystal Palace v Liverpool. I'm a Crystal Palace fan. I didn't expect us to win. We went 1-0 up, and that was good. We've had a decent record against Liverpool in the past, where we have managed to beat them a few times, but this is a different Liverpool now. I think they're beginning to not only play well, but also that they've got a little bit of backbone to them, I think, and they've got this ability to keep believing it and going forward, and they've got more leaders, I think, in their team than they've had before in the past when we've beaten them. So yeah, unfortunately they came back to win 2-1. First goal was a penalty, which Milojevic scored. Zaha was fouled by Karius. He was just smashed into basically by Karius, really. I saw some people on social media arguing it wasn't a penalty. I would imagine they were Liverpool fans, but I mean, it was. There's no real doubt about that. Mane did a blatant dive, which he got a yellow card for. Probably should have been sent off later on, but unfortunately, well, I don't know. I'd say fortunately for my fantasy football team, but unfortunately for Crystal Palace, he was not sent off. So yeah, I'm not really an advocate for players being sent off at the end of that. I'd rather be a team with 11 on the pitch. But also, I dislike players who dive. And I say that as somebody who, like players in my own team and players who I like have dived before, and it really isn't. I don't get why players do it nowadays with all the cameras. Like, they know they're going to get caught out for it. I can understand sometimes when there's contact and there's a slight exaggeration, but the Mane one, there wasn't even any contact. I mean, it's just embarrassing more than anything, it is cheating. Like, that's, you talk about, like, there's this big thing in Australia about, like, the ball tampering, and stuff like that, and when you think about it, that's, diving, like, without contact in a penalty area to get a penalty for your team is worse. And yet, I see these guys in the cricket on TV crying because they feel they've let their country down, and because I guess they're embarrassed and ashamed of what they did. And yet in football, people are just like, oh yeah, he just dived. It's just weird. I don't know. I don't get it, but yeah, that's the thing, I guess. And then Salah obviously popped up late on. Not exactly one of his classic goals, but a good finish nevertheless. And Crystal Palace lose. Liverpool win, which kind of, I think, now has pretty much cemented their place in the Champions League next season. 10 points ago of Chelsea in 5th. Still battling, I guess, with United to get that 2nd place, but they got a game in hand. United. In another year without Man City, this would have been a really interesting title race, wouldn't it? But what can you say about Man City? It's just ridiculous. And yeah, for Crystal Palace, puts us, well, in the same place that we were, which is 2 points ahead of Southampton, although they have a game in hand. In terms of run-ins, and I'll go through that towards the end of the season, we, I believe, have an easier running, if you can call it that, because we're playing teams around us. But that's not always the easiest, because when the team is fighting for something, fighting for survival or fighting for a European place or something, then they're often way more difficult than a team, even if they are slightly higher up, say a Burnley or a Leicester or an Everton, who aren't really fighting for that much right now and might already be a little bit on holiday. But anyway, so Brighton lost to Leicester, Vardy and Iborra. Penalty saved by Schmeichel. Good win for Leicester, really. They're starting to pick up pace a little bit more. I see Leicester City very much as the team who are probably going to be in and around this kind of area of the league, between 5th and 9th sort of thing. Even though obviously they won the league a couple of seasons ago, that was obviously a one-off, but they're not a bad side at all, and I think Lord Buell's done a decent job with them. For Brighton, I think looking at Brighton, they're 6 points clear of the relegation zone, with 7 games left to play for them. I think you could argue that they're going to be okay, but you can't switch off. You just can't, and it's still dangerous for probably Newcastle down, although Newcastle have had a good bit of form recently. I think the 37s are now okay. Like, I can't see Southampton picking up 9 points in 7 games. That'd be 3 wins in 7. And judging by the way they played, I can't see that. And the same with Stoke. But who knows? There have been like teams in bigger trouble who have escaped in the past, so you never know. Man United with a pretty routine win against Swansea. Sanchez getting a goal which was desperately needed, and an assist as well. Swansea, again, Swansea, everyone's talking about Swansea and like, oh, such a fantastic job Carvalhal's done, keeping them up, and it's like, whoa, they're 3 points off the relegation zone. Let's not get ahead of ourselves now. Everything he's done with them will count for nothing if they go down. The same way with Marco Silva. Like, you turn around and say he did a good job at Hull, but he didn't because they got relegated. It was probably a near impossible job, but if your remit is to come in and stop them from getting relegated, and they get relegated, then you've failed in the job you're doing. I know that's very, very harsh, because Marco Silva did a good, the team played much, much better, and Swansea are playing much, much better now than they were, but at the end of the day, his job was to come in and save Swansea, and until they have saved, are safe, and I think they will be, by the way. I don't think they're going to go down, but until they are, you cannot say he's done a good job yet. Newcastle beating Huddersfield 1-0. That's an important win for Newcastle, because as I said, that nearly squeaks them out of a couple of draws or one more win, and they should be safe. I think 37 is probably going to be the safety point this season. But Huddersfield, that was a bad loss, and they're on a bad run, and they've got Brighton next, and that's a big game. Everyone's talking about Southampton, Stoke, Palace, I guess, as well, but Huddersfield, it's dodgy, it is dodgy. For them, if these three teams went down, I would say that they probably all three deserve to go down. Like, Southampton have played some horrible football this season. They've really just been, they've gone out with a bit of a whimper more than anything else. With Stoke, Stoke are a weird one, because I really do feel like they have some very good players, and I just don't know what is going on. I think there's just a big problem with team unity there. It's just something's not right there. I think Paul Lambert is onto a bit of a hiding for nothing, trying to go in there and stop that. And Mark Hughes was probably as good an appointment as Southampton could make, but he's lost his 2 games in charge he's had, both 3-0. Or did he? Was he in that one? I don't know. I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, Stoke have had some tough games. They've had Man City, Everton, and then Arsenal. So they've had some tough ones. They've got Tottenham next, which I can't see them getting any points from. But it's tough at this point, isn't it? Still, they are a few wins, and they could see themselves come out of it. So it's not over yet. Watford, Bournemouth, Defoe scoring a late goal. Yeah, and I feel like both these teams now are not really playing for very much. That's probably as good a draw as they could both get, and yeah, I feel like they're both pretty much safe. They should pick up a couple of points by the end of the season in the next 6 games or so, and they should be fine. So I feel like that was probably a result both of them were fine with. West Brom obviously lost to Burnley. Another good win for Burnley, I guess. And West Brom now parted company with Alan Pardew today, as I record this on Monday the 2nd. And I mean, there's not really much to say about West Brom anymore, is there? Mathematically, they're not down. They've got 6 games left. They get 3 points in that. That's 18 points. They'd end up at 38, which would probably see them safe. But can anybody honestly see West Brom winning every single game till the end of the season? No. So they're as good as down now. They've I don't know if they've had takeover. I think it's Darren Moore, I think, is one of the coaches taking over. It's sad. It always happens, unfortunately. There's always one team who's generally really adrift. This year it was West Brom. Now I think they've just got to focus on life in the Championship, and who they're going to keep and who they're not going to keep, and who they need to get off their wage bill, and go with that. Burnley, don't think they've got much hope of catching Arsenal, but they can cement that 7th place, and the difference between places in the Premier League is actually quite important, because there's a hefty prize money upgrade of a good few million for each place you get, so it's well worth Burnley fighting till the end of the season, because to Burnley a few million is a lot. They're not a rich club by any means. So it's well worth their time to keep going. It's a shame, because I would like to have seen Burnley in the Champions League, but I think it's pretty impossible now, because it would involve Liverpool dropping out the Champions League, potentially, and then winning it or something like that. I don't know. It would be it'd be weird. One of the biggest matches of the weekend was definitely West Ham Southampton. Before this day, West Ham were they were just under Palace. They were in 17th, I think, and Southampton were in where they are 18th. And this was a massive match because both teams obviously really struggling. West Ham struggling on the pitch and also off the pitch with lots of stuff going on. Their fans very unhappy with what's going on, and West Ham hadn't played in a long time, and I think it was 3 weeks, and they went to like Florida, I think, Miami, something like that, and for some kind of like what they call warm weather training, which is really just, I guess, team bonding, probably more than anything, I think, and probably just wanting to get away from, you know, all the trouble that there was, the protests and stuff like that, and it seemed to do the trick because they absolutely trounced Southampton. Arnautovic is a very interesting player. He got 2 goals, both very, very good goals, I'd say. He's a very, very interesting player because I feel like when you're... It's weird for me that David Moyes is the manager who's got the most out of him. Because David Moyes to me doesn't seem like a very charismatic and motivating manager. But he does seem to have got the best out of Arnautovic. And when you get the best out of Arnautovic, he looks a class act. But there is serious problems with his temperament, I think. So, yeah, I think he's similar vein to like a Paolo Di Canio, where like there's clearly undoubted talent there, almost, you know, genius talent, but he's his own worst enemy. And I think if you have a manager who can get the best out of him, then that's great. But I'm not sure for a team like West Ham to be in that position, it's necessarily the greatest thing. I mean, I guess sometimes you need a player who can turn a game on its own, and maybe he is that player. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe he's gonna buckle down, and after this season, I think he's had a pretty good season. What was his kind of... Yeah, because you see, like, before David Moyes came in, he did nothing. Like, he was terrible. David Moyes suddenly came in, and then the goals started flying in. He's got 9 goals in, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 games. That's a really good return for a team that's struggled a lot. So, yeah, I could definitely see that he... you know, if David Moyes is there next season, he's there next season, maybe he's going to buckle down and do something. As for Southampton, they have not looked any better under Mark Hughes. They just seem like they're going out with a bit of a whimper. They've played some absolutely dire football, and it's a shame because Southampton are always that club who, you know, for bringing through exciting youngsters and things like that, and they have got some, and they've always played some decent football, but I don't know. I guess they overachieved for a while with Koeman and Pochettino, but when you run the sort of like policy that Southampton do, where you are, you know, going to sell your best young players, and you know your managers are going to be moving on after a couple of seasons, it's going to catch up with you in the end, and it has, unfortunately. They still could get safe, don't get me wrong. There's still, you know, there's still games for them to win. They've got Arsenal next. That's going to be a tough ask, but they're by no means out of it. In fact, if they win their next game, or they win their game in hand at least, then they will go above Palace out of the relegation zone. So it's still all to play for. They're certainly not relegated. And Everton 1, Man City 3. I mean, you run out of stuff to say about Man City. The Sane goal was a brilliant finish. The Jesus goal was the build-up play was amazing. Like, Sane's control was brilliant, I think, and it just seems so common. Like, oh, Man City gonna win. That's it. The league's done and dusted. They can win the league if they beat Man United. They'll win it the earliest that any club's ever won the Premier League with 6 games remaining. However, they've got Liverpool in the Champions League coming up, and Pep said that that's more of a priority, and he's absolutely right to think that, because they're going to win the league. There's no doubt in my mind. And whether they win it, I mean, obviously I know all Man City fans want to win it in a derby against Man United. Like, that is the dream. Okay, I appreciate that, but if they lose that match, they'll still win the league. There's no doubt in my mind. And if they lose that match because they're focusing on beating Liverpool, then and they beat Liverpool, then that's worth it, because they can win the league and they can win the Champions League this season. They're capable of doing that, 100% capable. And if they manage that, no one's going to give a damn if they lost to Man United in a derby. Maybe Man United fans will. I mean, you can cling on to that all you want, but this would be the greatest Man City side there's ever been if they win both those competitions. So, and one of the greatest sides we've seen in the Premier League, to be fair, since the days of Alex Ferguson, probably. So there's that, I guess, and it would also shut up a lot of people, I guess, about Pep Guardiola only ever winning the Champions League at Barcelona. I don't get the Pep Guardiola hate from people. Okay, Pep Guardiola has people turn around and say like, oh, he's not a good manager because every club he goes to is a really good club. I don't really know what to say to that, because why on earth would he go to a bad club? Like, he went in at Barcelona as a legendary player for them, a captain, a legendary player, and he completely reinvented the way they played football, brought in this new style, developed players through. I mean, people had heard of Iniesta and Xavi before he came in, and Messi obviously, but he was the one who put them on the map. Like, he played to their strengths. He played a revolutionary type of football, which just hadn't really been seen before, really. And then he goes to Bayern Munich after, I guess he kind of felt a bit burnt out at Barcelona. I mean, what's he supposed to do? Go and join Cheltenham Town? It's ridiculous to argue and say, oh, he only goes to the best clubs. The thing is, I do agree that his style of football is suited to high class, high technique, highly skilled and technical players. It doesn't make him a bad manager. Like, if you look at Man United, I'd argue and say Man United have as good a players as Man City. It's just that they're not, playing as well. They're not playing in a good style like Man City, and also the players are not being developed as well as Guardiola's developing players at Man City. Like, Sterling looks world class at Man City, but he wasn't before that at all. We knew he was a good player, but he wasn't before. Sane looks like he's world class. No one thought Sane was world class before that. We know how good Silva is. Sorry, De Bruyne was a good player, but he was a good player in Germany. He kind of flopped at Chelsea, if you like. He didn't really get any game time, but he played well in Germany. But like, Man City were the ones who took the punt on him. I didn't see Man United coming in for him, or Bayern Munich or anyone like that. He went to Man City and developed into a fantastic player, like a world-class player. So I never get this argument about Pep Guardiola to say like he's not a good manager just because he hasn't managed a bad club. It's like, it's totally redundant. Why would he? It's like turning around and going like, oh, you're not a good race driver if you've only raced in Formula 1. You have to have raced in like, go-karts to be really considered a good driver. It's utterly ridiculous. If you turn around and go, oh yeah, you can't, if you win the F1 championship, with like Mercedes or Ferrari, yeah, you're not as good, because you haven't won it with like, whatever the worst team is nowadays. I don't even know what the worst team is. It's just a redundant thought. Like, I will admit, if he doesn't win, see, I don't even agree so much with the argument about the Champions League, because I feel like the Champions League is set up for teams in Germany and Spain to win, because their leagues are less competitive than the Premier League. So I feel like whenever a Premier League team does win the Champions League, it is a really, and also compete for the title and win the title perhaps, it is really special, because the last few times, I think that, in fact, I don't think a team's won it since the Fergie era, won the league and the Champions League in England, and that's, something to think about, I guess, there. But anyway, I could ramble on about City all day, but I won't. They're phenomenal. You know, they're really good. They play fantastic football. They're a joy to watch. And like, people can talk about money spent and all they want. It's kind of irrelevant, because when you're on the pitch, you're on the pitch. You know. Arsenal win 3-0 against Stoke. Left it very late. Aubameyang scored 2. One was a penalty. Should have got a hat-trick, but he gave the last penalty to Lacazette because he's a fucking idiot, and it cost me points. Arsenal were terrible in the first half. They were shocking in the first half, and they got it together late on. I think they'll beat Southampton in their next game. I hope they beat Southampton in their next game. I think they'll probably finish 6th in the league. Potentially, you could argue they may scrape above Chelsea, but I guess we'll see, because Chelsea were really bad. But Stoke were also awful. Like, Jack Butland made a lot of very good saves, and they still lost 3-0. So, like, Stoke City are not a good side. Like, I take heart from Palace, because I'm like, you know what, we played well against Liverpool. We played well in the games we lost against, like, Tottenham, Man United and Chelsea. We played well and we lost them. Okay, and then, you know, we lost against Liverpool, and we've had 4 losses in the last 5 games. They've been to like top 6 clubs, or top 5 clubs if you like, and they've all been by like 1 goal, one goal in it, and we've been unlucky. We were unlucky in the Liverpool game, we were unlucky in the Chelsea game, we were unlucky in the Man United and the Tottenham game. So, like, if we'd got a point out of all of those, it'd be very different. But the thing is, with Stoke, they look terrible against Arsenal. They've looked terrible against like just a lot of other teams. The same with Southampton. Like they've looked awful. I mean, Southampton have lost 3-0 to Newcastle, 3-0 to West Ham. Like, they're teams who are around you. Like, if you got a point out of them, you wouldn't be in the relegation zone right now. West Ham would be, you know. So. And they got hammered in them, so I am hopeful that Palace will be okay, but anything can happen in football. Spurs beat Chelsea 3-1. If you haven't seen Eriksen's goal, it was fantastic. I'm not quite sure what Caballero was doing with it. I think he may have just been totally, like, just, I want to say, just totally bamboozled, I guess would be the word, by the goal. Chelsea scored first, Morata, but they did just seem to collapse, I think. And there's serious issues at Chelsea. Like, you know, everyone knows there's serious issues with Conte, and like, it's not going to end well, is it? Like, the best thing I think he can do is move on at the end of the season, for both the club and his own sake, because clearly he's not happy there. Clearly that's translating to the players. Clearly he is a good manager, and he needs to go to a club which is going to suit him a little bit better. Spurs, this is the problem with Spurs at the minute. Like, everybody is going, Spurs are so good, they're great. They are, but they're also in 4th position in the league. You know, 20 points away from Man City. And I fear for Spurs, because the summer, if Spurs don't win something, and the only thing they can win is the FA Cup, but if they don't win something, I feel like Ali's going to go, Eriksen's going to go, talking about Alderweireld, he's going to go, Harry Kane might go. I just feel like their team's going to get decimated, because if you're playing great football and everything like that, if you're finishing 20 points behind the league leaders in 4th, and yeah, you can get Champions League football next season, if you don't win anything, then how many, you know, those players aren't getting any younger, and they're going to start thinking, well, I could go to a big club and I'm going to stand more of a chance of winning. And it's not necessarily about money. I know people talk about money and wages, but if you're a footballer and you've got probably 8 years at the top of your game, maybe, then you want to try and maximise what you're going to win. You don't want to look back on your career the rest of your life and go, oh, if I'd have moved on, I could have won something, you know. Like Alan Shearer, like, God bless him for going to Newcastle and sticking it out there, but we all know if he'd gone to Man United, you know, when he left Blackburn, which there was on the table, like, he would have won a lot more than he didn't win anything at Newcastle, did he? Don't get me wrong, I think he is a fantastic guy for going to Newcastle, his childhood club, and so are Newcastle fans, and there's something to be said for that. But, you know, if you're not necessarily a supporter of the club or from the hometown that your club is from, a la Ericsson or someone like that, are you going to feel the same way about staying at Spurs? You know, is Pochettino going to get one more season out of them, or is this now going to be the end of the road? And you know, these players, because if Kane and Ali turn up in the World Cup and play really well, then there's going to be some serious offers coming in, not just from, you know, UK clubs, but from, you know, abroad as well. So we'll see how that comes around. But yeah, it's disappointing that Spurs on paper, they look like such a good team, such a good squad, and yet they're fourth, 20 points behind the league leaders. It's incredible, isn't it, really? But there you go. So that's the matches coming up next week, Saturday the 7th. We're going to see the Merseyside derby, Bournemouth v Palace, big game, Brighton Huddersfield, big game, Leicester Newcastle, not so big I don't think. Stoke Spurs, I mean, got to see a Spurs win now. I'm going to put some Spurs players in my squad for sure. Watford Burnley, that's a tough match. Manchester derbies, that's going to be a big game. Just because Man United are going to want to win that, but I don't know how much. The problem is Mourinho's not, like, for Mourinho and his personality, he will not want to lose the title in that game. So whereas he's really got nothing to lose, and he should go out and try and beat City because they might well be resting players for the Liverpool game in midweek. At the end of the day, he won't, because he will not want to lose that. He doesn't care if he draws that. I don't think he will not want to lose it, and I think that might be why he will lose it. So we'll see. And then Arsenal Southampton, big match for Southampton. I can only see an Arsenal win there, and Chelsea against West Ham. That would be a very interesting game as well, because there's a big grudge match between these two teams, and a big rivalry, and Chelsea are not playing well, and maybe West Ham have got a little bit of confidence now. If we look at the run-in for Crystal Palace, my team, I would say we've got Bournemouth, we've got Brighton. That's a weird week, that's going to be an interesting one. We've got Watford, who by then probably won't be playing for anything. We've got Leicester, who by then won't be playing for anything. We've got Stoke, who might be relegated by then, you don't know. And we've got West Brom, so it's in our own hands here. If at the end of the season I'm talking about Crystal Palace getting relegated, it is completely our fault, because we've had the teams to beat, you know, the teams around us, and if we fail to do that, then it's our own fault. So yeah, it's interesting. I might do like a little prediction spreadsheet or something about how I think it's going to go towards the end of the season, and see who I think is going to get relegated. But at the minute right now, I'm thinking it's going to be Southampton, Stoke and West Brom, because those teams are not playing well. But I think Huddersfield could creep in. Palace obviously are more than capable, and Swansea too. So I think probably 15th down. I think if West Ham have got their act together, if they get a positive result against Chelsea, be that a win or a draw, then I think they're going to be okay. And I think Brighton too should be okay, but we'll see, we'll see. I'll change my team a bit closer to the time, but I'm obviously going to add in, I think, some Spurs players, and I think definitely leaving Aubameyang, maybe even make him captain, and add in some Spurs players, because I didn't have any Spurs players, to be fair. Obviously keep Man City players, because I think they're going to be United, but we'll see. Anyway, till next time guys, thank you so much for watching. It's been my pleasure, and I will catch you next time. Bye bye.